For most of human history, the most dangerous night of a woman's life was not a battle, and not a plague. It was the night she gave birth. And almost every culture on the oldest map of the world agreed on something strange. In the 40 days after a child was born, the mother's room had to be guarded. Iron under the pillow. A light kept burning. Never, ever leave her alone. Because something was coming for her. The Babylonians drew it on amulets 4,000 years ago. The Hebrews whispered the name Lilith. And in the villages of Anatolia, they still tie a red ribbon in a new mother's hair against a visitor they call the Alkarısı. The Red Woman. This is who she is, how they say you can catch her, and what was really killing the mothers. The old women describe her the same way in 100 villages that never met. Tall. Gaunt. A face too large for its skull, teeth spaced like a horse's. Fingers too long, tipped with nails of copper. And hair wild, tangled, and red. Red is her color and her name. Dull means the red one, and she is the red woman, the red mother, the red girl, depending on which valley you fear her in. By day, nothing. She does not exist in daylight. She waits for a house where a woman has just given birth, because for 40 days, they say, the door between worlds stands ajar in that room. What she comes for is the thing the old world kept in the body's deepest room. The stories name an organ, the sigga, the liver, but do not picture a thief of flesh. Picture what the word meant. In the old Turkic world, the liver was where the life itself resided, the can, the vital spark, which leaves the body as a bird when we die. Turkish still remembers, a beloved is called sigaparam, a piece of my liver. So when the red woman bends over a sleeping mother, what she draws out is not meat. It is the ember of a life, and the stories say she carries it glowing in her hands. Then she runs. She runs for the nearest stream, because the belief is exact on this point: if she carries the ember across running water, or drowns it in the current, the body it came from dies. That is why, in the old villages, a new mother with a fever was never just sick. Her family would say the words that still exist in Turkish today, "Albazması." The red woman pressed her. And the whole village understood that a race had begun, between the demon and the water. So the villagers built a fortress out of ritual. For 40 days, the mother was never left alone. Someone sat with her through every night, and the count of 40 was kept like a military watch. They tied red into her hair, a ribbon, a scarf, and gave her a sweet drink dyed red, because red confuses the red woman, it is her own color turned against her. Guests wore red thread. The baby's wrists were bound with it. 40 days of light, company, and the color of blood worn like armor. And then the deepest defense of all, the one thing in creation the Alkarısı cannot touch. Iron. A needle in the pillow. A knife under the mattress. Scissors hung open at the headboard, shaped like a cross of blades. From the Kazakh steppe to the Iranian plateau to the villages of Anatolia, across 5,000 kilometers of folklore, every single tradition agrees on this one point: the red woman cannot bear the touch of iron. The old Turkic world worshipped the forge, the smith was half a priest. Whatever walked in the dark belonged to the age before metal, and iron was the wall humanity built against it. Remember the needle. It is about to matter. She does not only hunt mothers. Ask an old villager why a horse is found in the morning drenched in sweat, exhausted, as if it had been ridden all night, and why its mane is woven into tiny, impossibly fine braids that no human hand tied. The Alkarısı rides. She loves horses the way a thief loves what he cannot own, and she braids their manes while the stable sleeps. In some houses they hung a mirror in the stable, so she would meet her own face in the dark and flee it. Even the demon, they reasoned, could not bear the sight of the red woman. And here the Anatolian stories take a turn that Lilith never took, and Lamashtu never took, a turn so strange it could only be folklore. They say you can catch her. If a man is quick enough and brave enough to reach her, and pins an iron needle into her collar, the red woman goes still. The iron in her clothing binds her like a chain. And then, the stories say, she becomes your servant. But here is the part the old women tell with lowered voices, the part that makes this story dangerous. In the house, with iron in her collar, the red woman was beautiful. The wild hair, braided, was the color of embers in the hearthlight. The bread she kneaded rose higher than any bread in the village. Whatever she touched multiplied, the family grew rich. Guests would ask, quietly, who the lovely silent woman by the fire was, and the family found themselves proud of her. The children grew fond. The men found reasons to linger by the hearth. Year by year, the household stopped seeing the demon and saw only the beauty, because fear cannot live for years beside a beautiful face. One of them always fades first, and it is never the beauty. But the horses still refused the yard when she stood in it. No one ever saw her eat. No one ever saw her sleep. And no one, not once, in any telling, ever saw her smile at the baby. So when the end comes, it does not come from carelessness. It comes from love. A new bride marries into the household, kind and unknowing, and never told the whole truth, because the family had long since stopped saying the word demon out loud. She sees only a beautiful, sad-eyed woman who serves in silence with a crude iron needle stabbed through her collar, and one evening, as a kindness, she plucks it free. The red woman is out the door before the needle hits the floor. Across the yard. Over the stream. Gone. Some stories say she calls back a curse, some say she spares that one house forever, for the years of bread. But the old women always end the telling on the same cold note. The needle held her body for years. Her face held the family the entire time, and it was the face, not the needle, that finally opened the door. Iron can bind a demon. Nothing ever forged binds human trust. One more thing, before we open the old books. The Alkarısı does not stop at the birthing room. The villagers say she sometimes visits ordinary sleepers, and that she sits on the chest. The sleeper wakes and cannot move, cannot breathe, cannot scream. There is a weight on the ribs and a presence in the room, and every muscle is stone. Turkish has a word for that visit too, karabasan, the dark presser, and if you have ever woken in the night unable to move, with something watching from the corner of the room, then you have met the family business. Hold that thought. It gets its own episode. How old is she? Older than the country she haunts. The Alkarısı did not begin in Anatolia, she walked here. Her name appears across the whole Turkic world, Albasti in Kazakhstan, Albasti among the Kyrgyz, Ul in Iran and Armenia, the Red Mother of the Steppe. She predates Islam in these lands, the Imams inherited her, they did not invent her. When the ogres rode west into Anatolia 1,000 years ago, she rode with them, folded into the saddlebags with the language, the lullabies, and the fear of the 40th day. And she has sisters. In Babylon, 4,000 years ago, pregnant women wore amulets against Lamashtu, a lion-headed she-demon who slipped into birthing rooms to snatch infants and drink the blood of new mothers. In Jewish tradition her shadow became Lilith, the night hag of the nursery. The Greeks feared Jello, stealer of newborns, the Arab world knew the Karina. Different names, different centuries, one identical nightmare, a female thing that comes in the night, for the mother, in the first days after birth. Whole civilizations that never met each other invented the same demon. Which raises the real question, the one this channel exists to ask. Why did everyone need her? Here is the arithmetic the legend was built on. Before modern medicine, roughly 1 mother in 100 did not survive the birth of her child, and in a bad year, in a bad village, it was far worse. A healthy woman would deliver safely, smile for 3 days, and then the fever would come. Fast. Merciless. Unexplainable. She was fine. Now she is burning. Nothing in the village's world could account for it, so the village gave the fever a face, red hair, and a motive. Al-Basmasi, the red woman, pressed her. And look closely at what the superstition actually did. It ordered the family to never leave the mother alone for 40 days. Watch her. Keep her warm. Keep her company. The demon was imaginary. The around-the-clock care she enforced was not. The Alkarısı, in her terrible way, was a public health program with red hair. Now, the real monster. The fever that the red woman personified has a name, puerperal fever. Childbed fever. And its true story is darker than any folk tale. In 1847, in Vienna, a Hungarian doctor named Ignaz Semmelweis noticed something unbearable. Mothers were dying of childbed fever far more often in the ward run by doctors than in the ward run by midwives. He searched, and he found the reason. The doctors were coming to delivery straight from the autopsy room. The thing killing the new mothers was not a demon in the night. It was the healer's own unwashed hands. Semmelweis ordered his students to wash in chlorinated lime, and the death rate collapsed, from 1 mother in 10 to nearly none. And for this, the medical establishment of Europe mocked him, rejected him, and drove him out. He died in an asylum, still insisting on the truth, decades before germ theory proved him right about all of it. So the villages of Anatolia blamed a red-haired woman, and the hospitals of Europe blamed bad air, and the mothers kept dying until someone finally looked at his own hands. One more thing. The Alkarısı has not entirely left. Walk into a Turkish maternity ward today and you will still see it, the red ribbon in the mother's hair, the red sherbet served to visitors, and nursing studies published in this century still record families quietly slipping a needle under the new mother's pillow. The fever is beaten. The 40 days remain. Some guardians outlive the thing they were built against. The red woman was the fever with a face. But her other visit, the weight on the chest, the body that will not move, the presence in the corner of the room, that one is not a fever. That one still happens, tonight, to people in every country on Earth. And science finally caught it in a laboratory. Next time, karabasan, sleep paralysis, and the demon your own brain builds. Subscribe and sleep well.